What the hell is stamp duty? So what exactly are we taxed on? Well, it's called the stamp duty land tax, which in my opinion doesn't really make sense, because if you buy a leasehold property, you're still getting, say a flat for example, you're still getting charged stamp duty, but you don't have anything to do with the land underneath. But it is a transactional process, and it's any property transaction. Now, there's three parts that you need to be aware of, and we're going to be focusing more on the third. First of all, there's outright residential, your normal home that you're living in. Any buy-to-let property is also residential, but I'd consider that separate. Next is commercial property. If you're buying commercial property or doing commercial to residential conversions or industrial, whatever it is, you still pay stamp duty, but there are different rates. So I'm going to be focusing on resi for now. Maybe I'll do another video on commercial. And then finally, there's buy-to-let tax or buy-to-let stamp duty tax or second home tax. Those are the three you need to be aware of, and what we're going to be looking at is buy-to-let stamp duty tax. Now, I want to make this video as evergreen as possible, and so by the time you watch this, there's going to be some pauses or exemptions that are now out of play, and I'm going to be talking about the generic buy-to-let investment tax you're going to be paying on the stamp duty. So I want to make this video as evergreen as possible, so there's a couple of exemptions right now that are at play that by the time you watch this will be completely irrelevant, okay? So as of 30th of June 2021, so probably way out by the time you're watching this, 30th of June 2021, there's an exemption right now because of COVID, etc., where £500,000 property down to £250,000 has been exempt. Okay, that's gone out of the window. It's now £250,000 or below. And then as of the 30th of September 2021, that exemption up to £250,000 is gone as well. It's actually quite irrelevant to buy-to-let landlords because we pay a surcharge, which I'll touch on in a moment. But if you're buying a property in general and you thought you're going to get out of it, scrap that by the end of that. If you're still watching and looking at buying your property, take advantage of it and get it done before then. And it is based on meaningful exchange of the property, which means as soon as you exchange on the property, stamp duty is payable on that basis. So as buy-to-let property investors, we pay a 3% surcharge on property investment. What this means is whatever the residential rates are, you are going to pay 3% on top. So for example, if you purchase a property for under 125,000 in the UK, there is no stamp duty to pay whatsoever, ignoring the exemptions that are here at the moment. So we pay 3% on top of that. Okay, so let me just break it down for you, and then what I'll do is just draw them on the board now. So these are the breakdowns from 0 to over 1.5 million as it stands today. So we've got 0 to 39,999 at 0%, 40 to 125 at 3%, 125 to 250 at 5%, 250,001 pound to 925,000 at 8%, over 925,000 to 1.5 million at 13%, and over 1.5 million at 15%, and breathe. So the thing to take account of is kind of weird here. Everything from this point here is an incremental increase, okay? Most taxes are like this and people get really confused. Have you ever heard somebody go, oh, there's no point getting a pay rise, or there's no point trying to earn higher because you're just gonna pay loads more tax and you don't benefit from it? Yes and no, that's not how tax works at all. Tax is incremental, meaning that from this band to this band, you pay that. From this band to this band, you pay that. From this band to that band, you pay that. Okay, and it's the same with stamp duty, except the first 40 grand. Now, let me explain that. So what happens is 0 to 39,999, there is 0% stamp duty tax. The reason for that is if you charge a load of money at that level, it kills the deal. Okay, nobody would want to buy them. It's really important taking that account, because if you've got a property at 41 grand, for example, and you could pay 39,999, essentially £1,000 and £1,001 difference, it's actually quite a huge difference. Okay, and the reason for that is this. The first breakthrough from here to here is of the overall purchase price. What I mean by that is, as you're going through these, let's say you buy a £150,000 property, the first 125 is at 3%. The next 25 that goes into this band here is going to be at 5%. Make sense? Good. So, but that is not true for that first part. What it means is, as soon as it goes into this threshold here, maybe what I should say is 0 to 125 if it's over that price point, okay? So what that means is, if it's a £40,000 property, it's not the first 39,999 is taxed at 0 and the next pound is charged at 3%. It's the whole property is charged at that price, okay? So it's a really big point. So a £40,000 property costs you 40 grand and 1,200 in stamp duty. A 39,999 property costs you 39,999 and 0 in stamp duty. If you're operating at that part of the world, just remember that in your negotiations. So for the rest of it, it goes up in increments, okay? So 3% here, 5%, 8%, 13% and 15%. For a majority of you, this is going to be irrelevant and this is going to be irrelevant unless you are buying a £2 million flat as a buy-to-let. And if you are, fair play, have a chat with me because you got mega money, okay? But for most of you, this is going to be irrelevant. What most of you are going to be within is this 0 to £250,000 mark, and some of you are going to be in this mark here, okay? I'd probably say about 85% of you are here. I'd probably say 5% of you are here, and 10% of you are there. So let's move on to some worked examples. Grab your pens and paper, team. We're going to do some sums. That sounded ridiculous, but there we go. Okay, so here we have got an example. So £35,000, write down or put in the comments, let's do that. Put in the comments right now, for 39,000, how much tax do you think you're gonna pay? And you can cheat yourself on this, but hopefully you're gonna put the answer for each bit and then allow me to write it up. So 35,000, how much tax is going to be paid? So the effective rate of stamp duty on 35,000 is 0%. So you are going to pay 0. Did you get it right? I hope so. The next one, 50,000. This should be easy. What is going to be the stamp duty on £50,000? Remember, it's not incremental at this stage, it's straight in. Put it in the comments. And it is an effective rate of 3% stamp duty, which means £1,500. Okay, so the next one's a bit more complicated with £150,000, okay? Now the reason it's a bit more complicated is the first 125,000, if you remember, and put it in the comments what you think, is at 3%, but the next 25,000 is at 5%. So what we do is we need to get the effective rate. And what the effective rate is essentially 3% of 125,000, 5% of 150,000, and then we merge them together. So the effective rate on this is 3.3% stamp duty. Hopefully you're keeping up, which happens to be £5,000. Okay, not bad. Did you get it? Let me know in the comments. And then the final one. Now I'm going to give you some time to guess this one. Most of you won't be able to do this in your heads. So you got £270,000. What do you think the stamp duty is going to be on this? Well, we've actually got 3 effective rates in here, haven't we? So we've got the first 125,000 at 3%. We've then got the next 125,000 at 5%. And we've then got the next 20,000 at 8%. So if you remember here, 0 to 125, 3%, 125 to 250, 5%, and 250 to 925 at 8%. So we've got quite a lot of complexities. Now, the effective rate of all of those put together is 4.3%, okay? Can you roughly work out what 4.3% is? Let me know in the comments if you can. You are a genius at math on this. It is £11,600. Now, the really important thing with this, and as these numbers go a lot higher, and why does it really matter? Well, first of all, thank you government for putting this in place, okay? But it actually has a dramatic impact because every other cost, say purchasing the property for 100,000, for example, if you're using a buy-to-let mortgage, you usually put down a 25% deposit. which means 75,000 of that is debt. Okay, but the problem with stamp duty is you can't leverage that. You can't pay for it as a part of a mortgage. It's cash. And as you'll know if you've watched my other videos, the most important metric when you're buying property is the return on capital employed, the return on cash, right? And if you have to put in another £11,000, your return is going to be significantly lower. So it's a really important thing to understand stamp duty and the impact it's going to have on your investments. Now, are there ways of mitigating tax? Yes. Are there ways of completely eliminating stamp duty tax? Yes. But I am not going to be giving that sort of financial advice over this YouTube channel, certainly not in this video. However, how can you learn more about this? How can you maximize your return on capital and increase your opportunity of investing in property? You can do so by liking this video, hitting the subscribe and hitting the notification bell. Hopefully you got value from this. Hopefully you followed it. If you need to watch it again, go and do that right now so it sinks in. Let me know what you thought in the comments and I'll see you on the next video.